All right, welcome back, everybody, on this Thursday night. Rhori Johnston in the open line chair. We're taking your phone calls as we discuss the latest, or one of the controversial bills that'll be required to cremate or bury fetal remains from surgical abortions here in Tennessee. Our guest is Representative London Lamar, a Democrat out of Memphis, representing District 91. And I should also point out, still, I think this is the case, the youngest member of the State House. Is that right?
The second youngest now, but youngest woman.
Okay, youngest woman. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to be here. Let's just kind of go off subject real quick. The session is going to wrap up soon, correct?
Yes, we are expected to be done around next week, around Wednesday or Thursday of next week.
Okay, overall, how do you feel about how the session has gone?
Well, you know, it's been a difficult session. There have been many issues we disagreed on. I mean, we've had, you know, the permitless carry come through. We have abortion bills like we're talking about today. We have protester bills that are coming through that are highly controversial, but I've also been able to achieve a lot of wins that I think that we've been able to talk about additional funding for education. I've been able to pass a bill to recognize doulas as vital members of the birthing community. Been able to pass bills to protect victims of aggravated rape and victims of human trafficking, which I've been on the show to talk about. So there have been many wins and many losses. But at the end of the day, what I do know is that every single legislator loves this state, and we put our best effort forward to make sure we are advocating for our district and advocating so that, you know, we can create a better Tennessee. And that we oftentimes disagree on what that looks like, but I can say that we've been able to get along a little bit better than we've been able to do in the past. We haven't fought as much, which is, you know, I think a good thing, because a lot of times when we get so lost in the infighting that we lose sight of the issues and what's really happening around us, and lose sight of the people. So I'm motivated to continue to press forward and making sure we can just get through this budget that we're working on today and going into next week, so that we can fund the things that we have coming down.
Yeah, that was another question I was going to ask you. When you have these issues that are very passionate issues, and controversial ones, and there's obviously a deep divide, and obviously your party is in the minority, but it's important for you to still get along with people, you know, those across the aisle, and try to find common ground in other areas, right?
Absolutely. You know, I think that's the biggest skill set that you have to have as a legislator. You know, I came into the legislature someone who was, you know, considered more so an activist, an advocate, always talking about, you know, racial issues, and I often clashed with the thought process of my legislators. And because we were focused on these very hyper-partisan issues, and unfortunately, like some of the issues we're talking about today, that instead of just allowing those issues to be and allow the Constitution to act as is, we can focus on feeding people, making sure people have jobs, and that we're focused on curbing the poverty issue. You know, we can come together and work on criminal justice reform issues. You know, I have a piece of legislation with Senator Janice Bowling, who is a strong conservative Republican, that is going to reduce life in prison from 51 years to 25 years, and it passed the Senate. And so she's a Republican that I'm working with on what could be one of the most comprehensive criminal justice reform bills we've seen in a long time, to show that on the issues that we do care about, which are criminal justice reform and education, we can actually get stuff done. And that is what I focus on, to make sure I can get through session in District 91, and the rest of Tennesseans are making sure we're pushing forward with policy that's actually going to impact their lives.
And I should point out, Senator Bowling was one of the authors of the bill we're talking about. She was the author in the Senate. Tim Rudd, Representative Rudd, was the author in the House. All right, let's go back to the phones, and one of our regulars, Lucy, is on the line to discuss this. Lucy, welcome in.
Hey, y'all. Well, you know, I'm glad that you said and pointed out what y'all just pointed out, because you know, these kinds of bills really make you wonder. No wonder Tennessee showed up in an episode of X-Files a few years back, you know, because they really think that we're this kind of out there all the time. There is no consistency in the logic of a lot of the laws that are coming up. And I think, Ms. Lamar, you're right. This is done for fun, for play, to strike a nerve, and the money wasted to fight this in court down the road could go to feeding somebody or putting some shoes on their feet or putting them up, in a house for a few months until they get back on their feet. I've got some questions about this. The way I understand this is that you have to either cremate or bury this fetus or embryo, whichever state it's in. But, in order to do that, if I remember correctly, and I'm serious about this, in the state of Tennessee, because I've had to sign off on a cremation. They had to get my permission for a cremation. Mm-hmm. Several of us had to sign off. In order to cremate somebody, you need a death certificate. I mean, that's what's required for a cremation. A burial, a death certificate is required. Right off the bat, I'm like, cause of death is going to be abortion. Mother is, father rapist, or father grandfather. I mean, all these issues come up. Are they going to change the law on that? Because you have to have those certificates in order to make this right. Now, a cemetery, I think in Nashville now alone, those plots are running around $25,000, $30,000 for a plot. Well, you can't bury your pet in your cemetery, and if your grandmother or your mother's buried in the slot, you can only put cremated ashes in that slot. You cannot bury a human body, and I'm sure that they're considering this to be a human body. You can't bury that in that plot either. You have to buy a separate plot unless you have it cremated. So I look at, are they going to change the law on that? Because they keep telling you that's the law in this state. And the other thing is privacy issues, and if I die, I have I have three choices with my body. I can be cremated, I can be buried, and I can also donate my damn rotten-ass body to science if I want to at Vanderbilt. Now, I think that should be an option, too, if they're treating that this way, and donate it to science. And then it's the responsibility of, say, Vanderbilt University to dispose of those remains at whichever way you decide to do that. Mm-hmm. So that option is not there for this. This is so, I still have more questions. So how many more laws, how much more money are we going to spend to fight this because somebody wants to get reelected? And I got one last question. Okay. Are they still talking about harvesting babies from women and girls? Pody was saying that they can harvest now with science. I think he said here a couple of years ago, as early as 4 months, and put it on machines until it's fully developed, then they're going to adopt it out. Are they still talking about harvesting babies from women who want abortions that can no longer have them here in the state of Tennessee? And I know this is a lot, but it's just absolutely insane to me that this is even brought up. It's embarrassing. I'm waiting for the X-File 2 episode to show up on TV someday about this. Thank you for listening.
Lucy, thank you again. One of our regulars. She had a lot. She had a lot on her mind. Representative, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, I do want to address a couple of things that she said. She actually brought up a good point about the medical certificate that you have to, the death certificate you have to have in order to cremate or bury someone. So in this bill, what it requires when you have the abortion, it'll be kind of it'll be on file, of course, and it will act as a form of a death certificate. But where the child is buried or cremated will be put in your file. So they'll be able to track that, or that information won't be given out to the public, of course. It is confidential, and the abortion clinics have to take on the steps of, again, keeping your information private, but it is to be recorded in your file. So you will be able, if you wanted to find out where your fetus was buried or cremated, you could actually, they'll forever be on record. Secondly, to do that, again, goes back to the point we talked about earlier. additional burdens on the abortion clinics. So again, they have to now keep track of where these fetuses are buried or cremated. You know, they have to pay for it if the woman does not have the money to pay for it. So that's again incurring additional costs on the clinics. And what they are going to do to supplement those costs are they're going to increase the cost of having an abortion. And so again, it disproportionately impacts women who are socioeconomically disadvantaged or who may not have the money who may not already have the money or barely have the money to afford the procedure in the first place. The prices are now going to skyrocket up to accommodate the potential that they're going to have to pay for this, or they're going to make you pay for it as a requirement of your procedure. So again, those costs are going to go up.
Yeah, the average cost that I have read, average now, for burial $350 and cremation $150. But again, that's an average that could go either way. We're going to take another break, and we've got another caller on hold. Tell that caller, hang in there. We will get to you right on the other side of this. Stay with us.